Welcome to the wrap-up show as the 2026 season of SailGP gets underway in Western Australia. It's event number 1, the Oracle Perth Sail Grand Prix presented by KPMG, and it literally got off to a bang.
And there's been a huge crash. Brilliant stop.
Inside the course and a big crash in the middle. All three boats in the front, over 90 kilometers an hour.
Oh my days.
There it is.
Go! It's go time in Fremantle.
Emirates GBR opened the 2026 season with a spectacular title defense.
So much to break down on a great opening weekend. I'm joined by my two colleagues, of course, the former Emirates GBR athlete Hannah Diamond and Olympian Stevie Morrison. Guys, I want to get your takeaways. Stevie, what impressed you the most over this weekend?
Just how tight it is. I mean, you can clearly see some teams have had some really good improvements in the off-season. There's going to be no margin for errors.
And for you, Hannah?
It was just such amazing conditions in Perth. You know, strong winds, difficult to sail the boat, but some close action and amazing weekend of racing.
I learned something new this weekend. The Fremantle doctor was definitely working this weekend. All right, it all came down to the final, and the teams that made it into the event final were DS Team France, the Bons Flying Rouge, and last year's champions, Emirates Great Britain.
And the British had really got control about 30 seconds out. They decided when the boats would accelerate. And I think when you lead that acceleration, the time it plays out, it turned into a boat length advantage and they had control. And then they were able to slingshot down at Mark 1 and really took a pretty commanding position straight away, Han.
Yeah, they did. It's a bit of a risk to start at the bottom of the line, but I really think that one of the big things is not being on that outside at Mark 1. So by taking the inside line, they were able to choose when they did their jibe, not only for the strategy at the bottom, but also with the sea state being so tricky, they had to pick their time with the waves as well.
Yeah, and then ultimately from there on in, they just did a really nice job of keeping things tight. I mean, it was a bit of a flip-flop race between these two, where the French were definitely all out, but Slingsby, I mean, he showed that he's not willing to give an inch wherever he is in the race. It was pretty much done for the race win from that first upwind leg, and for Stuart Biffle, you heard the excitement in his voice, new wing trimmer, and that's some job coming in and rejoining the team and making a win.
Yeah, definitely not easy. The pressure was on him this weekend, but he seems to have fitted into the team really nicely. And then a super close finish between DS Team France and the Bons Flying Rouge for second and third.
And you got to wonder if that 1 point right there is going to make a difference as the Bons Flying Rouge gets second. They get 9 points. Third place goes to DS Team France. They get 8 points. Afterwards, the celebration was definitely on. This team knows how to do it. And we had an opportunity to catch up to winning driver Dylan Fletcher and his strategist, Hannah Mills.
Congratulations, Hannah, congratulations. Reigning champs coming into this season. You just scored your first season win, your first event win here in Perth. How does it feel?
Absolutely incredible to start the season off here in Perth and with a win. Felt like we've been getting stronger and stronger in each day, and today was just sensational.
The conditions really got messy in that second race there, and it looked like from your perspective it could be pretty rough out there, pushing the limits. What were the conditions like on board?
Yeah, it's full on, you know, like it's super bumpy, freezing obviously up there, a lot of boats on the race course, a very tight race course at the bottom, so all on, to be honest, to get the boats around the race course safely, but yeah, we pushed hard and it was amazing to come away with a win.
A sold out event here with thousands of people lining the shore and the beaches. What was that like from on board the boat?
Absolutely stunning, you know, I think really Perth here, Fremantle really showed what it's made for, and that natural amphitheatre and seeing the crowd, especially for Parco being the home boy, it was absolutely amazing.
Auckland up next, the momentum is all in your corner. How do you maintain that going through the season?
Oh, it's such a long season, you know, we always talk about it, there's so many events, SailGP is just full of surprises, so you've got to take the wins when they come and just keep building as a team throughout the season. Obviously, Stewie's come in with the team as wing trimmer and done a phenomenal job getting up to speed, but we still feel like we've got so much to learn.
Congratulations, I'll see you in Auckland. Thank you guys.
So very happy for Dylan Fletcher and Hannah Mills. Hannah Diamond, I want to go back to day number 1. It wasn't their best day, and they came out a little slow out of the gate. How did they manage to put themselves in this winning position?
Well, I think it shows that consistency really counts, and the top-end conditions of day 2, the cream really rose to the top in those conditions, and it is really hard to sail the boats. I don't think we really get a feel of that from watching it. The movement of the boat is so violent, and experience really shows in those conditions.
Stevie, at one point I think you were talking to Lisa Darmanin down on the water, and you were saying, is it just me or the British just look really fast? And it seems like on day 2 they turned the page and they just found a new gear.
Yeah, I think it was quite specific kind of conditions. They definitely had found a sort of magic setup, I think. I think there's quite a lot on what Luke Parkinson, the flight controller, was doing and how accurate he was able to be in those bumpy conditions in terms of flying the boat. But no doubt it was very encouraging for that key relationship with Stuart and him.
No question about it. Emirates GBR picking off where they left off. And what a performance. You come out of Abu Dhabi with a win. They celebrate 7 weeks ago, and to come back to get it done in the fashion that they did, very impressive, and I think the rest of the fleet certainly took notice. All right, one of the other big stories that we had all weekend long was the return of Nathan Outteridge, and not necessarily a new team, new face. He's been around SailGP for a long time, but it is a new squad in Artemis, Sweden. How impressed were you, especially on day number 1, what they did?
I think it was super impressive and really speaks to the experience that they've got on board. It does take a little bit of time sometimes to gel as a team, but I think they've got enough experience on board, and it's a pretty exciting prospect for the rest of the season.
There's going to be much more of Nathan Outteridge, Chris Draper, and that squad, Stevie, as we go on, because they got 2 wins on day 1 as a quote-unquote new team.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's so much talent on that boat and experience. I was surprised how well they did yesterday, to be honest. I thought Nathan, in and around that many boats when you haven't raced for a while, but you know, we had Nathan and you know, he's got Draper there, he's got Andy Maloney, you know, Julia. They've all been racing, and they did look really, really strong. They were very fast when they needed to be, and there were some standout performers on that first day. I mean, I actually thought the US SailGP team, you know, they've had a pretty tough start to it. You know, their last season was poor, let's be honest, was really quite poor. But to have that kind of consistency that the US team did yesterday does show that they've been moving things the right way.
Yeah, and I think it shows how much it's possible to learn between the seasons when there's no sailing. None of the sailors have had access to the boats over the last 7 weeks. They turned up in Perth, and I think, you know, there were some questions asked about the makeup of their team. They didn't make any changes from their sailing roster, and they must have done a lot of work in the off-season to make sure that they're making the steps they need to make to put them closer to the top of the fleet.
US SailGP, after day number 1, was in a top 3 position. They fell off the pace in day number 2, but Stevie, they finished 5th overall. So if you're Taylor Canfield and that crew, I think you're going to take that as a win compared to where they finished last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long season, and you know, they've got to make small gains. They weren't as good today, but then they won't have sailed in those conditions today. Yesterday was a slightly calmer day. I think that's why new teams like Artemis could actually get things done. And for the US, they showed some of those learnings for last season had come in. You know, and we see the Bonds Flying Roos there. You know, teams had challenges. Glenn Ashby said he was feeding the cows like 2 days ago, and they come in, done wind control, having not sailed for a couple of years. You know, well, maybe who knew that was the way to train, you know? Feed the cows, there you go.
I won't say who, but someone in this group said, watch out for DS Team France. They're really good in high winds, and they showed up indeed. This is a team that whenever there's breeze, they've got to be a factor.
Yeah, that's right. And yesterday, their starting technique was the one. But I think it shows the level of the fleet and how fast you have to evolve, because today it didn't give them such an advantage. But one thing that I think we can take away from the weekend from them was whenever you see them sailing, they are locked in. You see a lot of the other boats, they're a little bit more erratic. They lose control a little bit. With the French in the stronger winds, you can just see them stand out through the fleet because everything is so rock solid.
Stevie, we don't get too carried away, but there were some standout performances. You mentioned Glenn Ashby getting a late call. He pops in. They make the final. Stuart Bithel's also got to be on that list.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I've said in several things. I think to come in, what an opportunity for him to come in as wing trimmer with the defending champions and to get involved. We see, you know, Stuart knows how to celebrate when he does, but to come in with, I felt he was the most under pressure athlete in the league. You know, you're coming into the championship team. If you don't do well, then, well, who's that showing is the problem. It shows you are. Well, they've come out and won. So, you know, that is seriously impressive. I think they'll look at yesterday when it was a bit lighter, and they'll think, okay, we've got a lot to work on. Hannah alluded to that in the interview, but they'll be really happy to actually get kind of the monkey off Stuart's back.
All right, so in the end, it is Emirates GBR that get the win. The Bonds Flying Roos finish in 2nd place, and DS Team France, they finish in 3rd. Artemis goes 4th, and US SailGP rounding out the top 5 as we turn the page on Perth, and we now set our sights on Auckland and the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix.
The City of Sails will once again transform into the City of SailGP. With the race stadium set to be even bigger in 2026, tens of thousands of fans will be on their feet for Peter Burling and Blair Tuke's Black Foils. Sailing is rooted deep in Auckland's history. So get ready for where thousands roar as one.
And that will be an absolute brilliant event. Remember last year, the massive crowds that turned out in Auckland, Stevie. I guess the big question is, will the Black Foils and Los Gallos be ready? Will their boats be repaired in time?
Well, I seriously hope they're going to be repaired in time, Todd. I mean, I think there's a lot of work to be done. The tech team seem like magicians sometimes, and they're very, well, unfortunately, they're very experienced at fixing these boats from bad incidents. But yeah, I mean, I think it's essential that they're there, aren't they? I mean, you know, that Pete and Blair, they're national heroes, you know, so the crowd we see in Auckland's huge. I need the Black Foils to be back, you know, competing at wherever they sit in the fleet, but it's normally towards the top, and that's what the league needs. We need the best sailors, and to not have that Spanish team and the Kiwi team racing this weekend was a real shame. Not
to focus on the negative, but let's go back and take a look at that incident. It was day number 1. It was between the Black Foils of New Zealand and the Swiss. Stevie, you're going to take us through this with the magic of telestration, and I know we talked to Peter Burling in the race. He wasn't so sure it was their fault. He said it was an umpire's decision. I thought it was pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear from a rules perspective. Now, of course, you know, rules are one thing, but we see the boat set up here, and we can see we've got the Swiss turning onto starboard tack there. The Kiwis, there's that little delay. Now, for a lot of people, you might think there's, you know, that happened all so quickly, the contact in there, but it was, unfortunately, from a Kiwi perspective, quite black and white. We're on board, we pause it, we see the gap between the two boats, and the Swiss are about to turn, and Blair Tuke is only just getting up and leaving here. You can see here, there you go, Blair's getting up. That's a little bit of practice required on that one. We can see Blair's getting up there. He's got to run across. He really needed to have been set up earlier. They'd been talking about the French boat coming in and some other boats further out to the side of the course out there. But yeah, the Swiss were setting up and they needed to have matched that. So as we run the video forward, we start to see now, and we see the Swiss team turn. Blair's going, and then the board's going down on the Black Foils, and it's only just on the lock now, and he needed to turn earlier. So what I think is you can turn the boat without the foils being down. Okay, that's the key moment. You're going to lose performance, but well, you're going to lose an awful lot more performance when actually you lose that, you know. So I kind of feel like he had an opportunity. It wasn't much of an opportunity, but they weren't on the onboard comms talking about matching the Swiss. They were talking about it's going to get tight with the French coming in and some other boats from that side, but I think their eyes needed to be on the Swiss. Yeah, it's tight, but this is tight racing. So, you know, Pete's the best because he can rub these things off and see that, you know, that's what I did, and he'll come back stronger. I know for sure he'll look at that, they'll debrief it, and, you know, maybe they won't agree with me. That's just fine. But I think maybe they could have spun the boat without the foil right down. But I think if you drop back 4 or 5 seconds, you've got to be watching for when that person leaves the cockpit on the Swiss boat, and then you set up. We're matching jibes with the Swiss.
Hannah, it's not always easy, but do you agree with Stevie?
Yeah, I completely agree with Stevie, and I think it's so easy to have, you know, a lapse of concentration or attention in the right place at the right time. There's so much going on, especially that bottom gate. We saw a lot of convergence of the fleet there, so that was kind of the key moment of the race. But I think I've got to agree with the umpires there. They were definitely in the wrong.
All right, as we look ahead now, who do you think, as you look at the rosters, and let's say everyone's ready for the next event in New Zealand, that's the February 14th, 15th event in Auckland, who needs to step up? Who's really going to have to examine some tape and go, didn't quite perform in Perth, we need to bring our A game?
For me, it's Rockwool Denmark. We've seen some glimmers of great performances from them, but this weekend, it was few and far between, and we saw some big crashes. We had a soundbite from Nikolai saying that it does feel pretty loose on board. It's the same for everyone, but they definitely didn't look like they had total control of their boat at all times.
And Stevie, it seemed kind of strange out there not having the 2024 champions, Los Gallos. Obviously, they damaged their boat in Friday practice. I got to think they are going to be itching to get out there. Look at it one more time. This was catastrophic for them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not sure that we're still evaluating what happened with that. I'm not sure they actually made a mistake. I think it was just such extreme conditions that we had a lot of the time in training, and you know, and we saw injuries. They're hard boats to sail. The little things make a big difference. But yeah, Black Foils, Los Gallos, they've got to get up and running. I mean, you know, Germany lost Stuart Biffle, Kevin Peppernet coming in. You know, they were top performing at the end of the season. There's going to be pressure goes on people straight away. I mean, I think North Star Canada had a solid weekend. They won the last race. And I think that's possibly made their weekend look better than it was, but they're riding their 6th, and, you know, chip away, it's not a bad one. You know, if you can build from there, they'll be quite happy. So there's lots of teams with stuff to think about, but, you know, there's been some fantastic moments for the British to come back and have that win was incredible. I mean, I kind of love seeing Glenn Ashby coming in, and I think, to me, that's highlighted for the youngsters in the fleet. Keep talking about we need youngsters coming in. Glenn Ashby's not, you know, I mean, you're right, he's sort of not a spring chicken, let's say. Sorry, Glenn, if that's offensive, you know, but he's come back in and showed it's a masterclass. So experience counts for a lot, and, you know, there's sort of plenty of good news stories in SailGP with the training base, and that's going to help people grow into the roles.
More good news. We are less than a month away from the second event of the 2026 season, so this is my favorite part. I like to put these guys on the spot and get predictions and what to look forward to. Hannah, you get first crack at this. When we get to Auckland, what are you looking forward to most other than the crowds, and who do you think will reign supreme in Auckland?
Well, I think we know it's a much smaller race course in Auckland, and we could have some big breeze again, potentially slightly flatter water, but we saw last year it can get pretty choppy and chopped up when all the boats come together. I think it's pretty hard to bet against Emirates GBR at the moment. I know you kind of claim I'm being biased when I say that, but I think they've been dominant across the conditions from light winds to strong winds.
Stevie?
Confidence is a big thing, isn't it? So they're going to be hard. I mean, I pray the Blackfoils are back. I think if they are, they're going to be fired right up. So I think we could be on for a home win if they can get that boat ready.
I still like France, but Tom Slingsby, how do you ever count that guy out?
You don't ever
with
count
Hugh
him out,
Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in his corner in the underwear? Yeah, it's all good.
Hopefully not too many more underwear videos between now and then. That's all I'll say.
All right, you are all caught up to speed as we turn the page. We now look to the second event of the 2026 season. It is the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Auckland. We can't wait to be there. That's February 14th and 15th. The action will be absolutely amazing with massive crowds. So for Stevie Morrison, Hannah Diamond, myself, Todd Harris, we will see you there.